Okay, calm down.
I mean, what I'd like to see more exposure of is the Anti-Defamation League, which was just called by Wikipedia unreliable source. Now, Wikipedia isn't exactly a bunch of lefties,
Right.
and they said because, and I knew this from the beginning, because that Jonathan Greenblatt, who's horrible, he's having a revolt amongst, even within the ADL, people don't like him.
Right. That's true.
Because
Yeah.
he's calling every single Free Palestine protest an anti-Semitic incident.
Right.
And of course, they don't cover the fact that, half of the organizers are Jewish, half of the participants are Jewish. I support, if not now, and Jewish Voice for Peace, because they've been doing so many great actions to bring attention to this. And me being Jewish, I think this is the worst thing that's happened in my lifetime. Not that there haven't been worse genocides with more people being killed in like Rwanda or Cambodia, but this is the first one that's happened with my tax dollars in my name. So, I'm getting a lot of flack now for people who, I'm not voting for Kamala Harris. I'm voting for Jill Stein, and I'm in a swing state. And I'm getting a lot of flack on Facebook for that because, they all have Trump derangement syndrome. They all think that, this Project 2025 is going to come to fruition. I can tell you that Trump does not have the attention span or the discipline to implement a 900-page blueprint. And also, they also say that he's going to be worse. Well, how can he be worse than somebody who is funding, supporting, and arming a genocide, And they're the ones that are in power right now. And for her to say that she and Joe are working around the clock on a ceasefire deal is such an obvious falsehood. The only thing she's working around the clock on is trying to avoid a media interview where she'll be confronted on her views. And I actually did a protest of her back in 2019 at her Beverly Hills fundraiser. And, we were standing right outside the house. This is one of my more creative ones. We can only get a handful of people at the last minute. So what I did was I printed up a sheet, a flyer on her horrible racial justice record, in all of her years in her horrible racial justice record. And I will put the link to something called Kamala's Receipts, which was compiled by somebody on Twitter who was chased off Twitter, but the document still lives on WordPress. So I will link this. It is the most comprehensive compendium of her record yet. And so we were handing this out. We dressed nicely. We left the megaphones and the signs in the car. And we were handing this out to the fancy people that were coming. This was Jeff Shell, the president of Universal Pictures. And Kamala was just on Rachel Maddow. And both of those, MSNBC and Universal are owned by Comcast. And on her interview, Rachel Maddow said, I think you are going to be the next Democratic nominee. So they were all working for her. Everybody was taking these things. They thought we were part of the greeting committee. And then finally somebody read it and they're like, we better escort these people directly from their cars to the front door. And that's when we broke out the megaphone and the chants and we started reading the flyer on the megaphone. But, I was in California for 33 years. The woman has no ideological principles.
Right.
She shifts with the wind, whatever the political wind tells her is popular. She's only dedicated to her own advancement. And my belief is she will never come out against arming Israel. She's taken $5.3 million from AIPAC, and she's addressed their conference twice. And even if she waits until after the election to do it, she knows full well they will take her out and she will not get reelected. So I think anybody that thinks that she's going to be better because of some weak rhetoric, when she said, I'm speaking, that was a mask off moment. That's what she really thought. It's about her. Right. And even the next day when she said, I hear you, we're working around the clock, we got to bring the hostages home. She referenced the hostages twice, but never said a word about the Palestinians. So I really feel like it's a very bad environment out there right now. And we're learning, as you know, Katie, what a PEP is, Progressive Except for Palestine. These are people that I've organized with on a multiplicity of issues, and they refuse to see this for what it is.
Right.
And it's just appalling.
Someone said, Lauren, why you think Trump would be better on Israel? But you weren't saying that.
No, I don't think Trump would be better. I just think, I'm not voting for Trump,
Right.
but I don't like
No.
people when they tell me that a vote for anybody else is a vote for Trump. The only vote for Trump is a vote for Trump. If this is really a democracy and they're running on democracy and freedom, then I should be able to vote for someone. And Jill Stein is a person with impeccable integrity and I agree with her platform 100%. And I think I should be able to vote for someone. I shouldn't have to vote against someone with the lesser of two evils or blue no matter who.
Right.
And that's what, the pressure is right now. It's rampant. It's rabid, and they're using fear of this just as much as the Republicans are using fear of the immigrant or the trans person.
Nadia, what are your thoughts on Kamala versus Trump?
Well, when you look at it, when we were disrupting President Biden's speech, he was talking about political violence. In fact, at the exact moment that he was talking about political violence is when we took out the banner, and then we were met with political violence at the DNC. And this is a very tight race. Like even in Florida, the Senate race is 2% difference. The presidential 4 to 5 points. And so the Democrats really can't afford to be isolating voters, like especially progressives, Arabs, Muslims. But just for based off of polls that people have done, 75-80% of Muslims and Arabs are not going to vote for the Democratic ticket. And what we have seen in the past week at the DNC is the Democratic Party is basically okay with that. They're okay with turning away large blocks of constituencies. They also don't really have much outreach out to Asian American voters, who really carried Georgia in 2020. And I didn't get elected to the DNC simply as a token. Like I worked really hard for the Bernie Sanders campaign, and then I still stayed on during the Biden campaign in 2020 because I felt that the threat of Trump was very real. And I worked, basically did like right after the convention onwards till November, I would do daily phone bankings. Like I would come home from work, feed my kids, and then just start doing phone bankings like 2 to 3 hours every day. And after and we flipped 3 counties blue in Florida, and then right after that, when the Georgia Senate election started, we just decided we're going to do that and not take anybody's flack for that. We'll just do it. And so we reached out to the Warnock campaign, and they didn't want to have anything to do with Muslims. So then we reached out to the Ossoff campaign, and they were willing to work with us through their out-of-state director, and we did about 135,000 phone calls. So while we didn't impact the presidential election, we did impact the Senate majority that was able to put Supreme Court nominee on the bench. And so that, I think, was like what we were able to do. And all the people that I know that have been organizing for the Biden in 2020 are now just organizing for ceasefire. And so those are the people who are really the workhorses, and they're not doing that type of organizing. So it's not even a matter of whether or not like I vote for Kamala. It's a matter of all these people who would be organizing are not organizing. And so that's also scary to think that they don't care. And they've essentially, it's not like whether or not I want to vote, it's whether or not they actually want to bother to earn our votes.
Do you think that there's so Lauren has said like she doesn't think it could be worse under Trump because there's already a genocide. Do you think that it could be worse under Trump?
I mean, I think that like I never got attacked the way I did during the Trump administration. Like I feared more than like now than I did. But I wouldn't think like Jamie Harrison always says, this is the DNC family. We look out for each other, except if you're Muslim and then you're a terrorist. And so there's none of that in that sense. Like there was never in a million years that I thought, okay, I'm gonna get attacked from the convention floor just for holding up a sign by the head of a labor union who just like hours before actually spoke from the convention floor on the main stage. And the whole uncommitted movement was to get a Palestinian speaker on the floor. And instead what you saw happening was the head of a labor union who's sponsoring the DNC, goes ahead, commits a Islamophobic attack, probably while he's drunk. And you have the governor of Illinois and top DNC staff and Harris campaign staff look on and just like look away.